Hey, I just found out that I'm going to Grand Rapids to give a speech. I'll be doing a mingle presentation. It's a private gig. I'm going to try and lay something on the calendar that is public for radio listeners. But what I was thinking is Grand Rapids, oh, good, because it's one more opportunity for me to use the Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. You Michiganders at the beach, on the boat, the lake, the mountain house, your backyard pool, wherever you might be, the swim club, wherever you are in the great state of Michigan. Grand Rapids, by the way, is great. Love Grand Rapids. Love the Jerry Ford Museum in Grand Rapids. Play your favorite online casino games with live dealers on the Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. Make your downtime fun time, live bet sports while you watch the game on the Play Gun Lake online casino and sportsbook app. All the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips, at home, wherever you might be. Safe and simple and easy to use. Play Gun Lake, the only app that I use in Michigan. I will be there soon and using the app. Great offer for new users. New users download the Play Gun Lake app right now and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus has to be wagered. PlayGunLake.com for details. You got to be 21 and in Michigan. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. You love to play. You play to win. You bet. Bet the Play Gun Lake app. Time now for headlines from the Monday edition of the newsletter. I should mention at the outset, TC is off this week. Some R&R, which she deserves. It's such a Herculean task that TC provides here each and every day. It takes 3 individuals in her absence just to sort of help carry the load. Dan, of course, as he usually is, but with added responsibilities. By the way, for the benefit of our YouTube viewers, they get to actually see Dan right now. Hello, Dan. Good to see you.
Hi. Good morning again. Hi. This is so fun.
Welcome to the headlines, Dan.
It's great to be here.
Your weekend was how?
Oh, weekend was fabulous. Spent some time out on the Chesapeake Bay, the waters, did some boating, played some golf, and did some firefighting as well. So it was a sort of a trifecta of sorts.
What was the firefighting?
Just driving the fire engine. We actually had no fires
right.
per se. I rode the day shift yesterday, so I was there from 7 in the morning till 6 last night. Drove the fire engine to 3 or 4 calls, just some medical calls.
I mean, can you believe Dan? Can you believe Dan? Out from 7 on a Sunday, from 7 until 6.
Yep. Yeah. It was great, and it was hot. It was hot, so we spent a lot of time indoors, but it was a good day.
Good for you. Okay, yeah. Alice also picking up the slack with a friend on her shoulder. She's offended because I referred to her friend as Mr. Harvey. What is your friend's proper name, Alice?
It's Lester. It's
Lester.
Mr. Harvey.
Right. What? And for the benefit of those listening, not watching, who or what is Lester?
Lester is my emotional support gecko. He's a leopard gecko. I have a few of these, but yes. It definitely comes in handy when your boss asks you at 6 in the morning if you want to join his video live stream.
Okay, does Lester bite?
No, he doesn't bite. He's a sweetheart.
And
he bit you once, I think.
Seriously, it's an emotional support gecko or just a gecko? Does he provide you emotional?
I could use all this emotional support I could take at this, level in the morning. But yes, absolutely emotional support.
Alice looks thrilled to be here.
She looks great. She looks terrific.
It's 5 minutes before with no notice.
And,
you want to join me on
And
YouTube?
how about her hip eyewear? I mean, come on. She's the total package.
Trying to put mascara on this morning.
Oh, who needs mascara when you have a gecko?
I need TC right now. That's what I need.
PJ is actually the one whose keister is parked in TC's chair. How does that feel, by the way?
Warm.
See, if I said that, she'd be offended.
Really?
She would be offended at that. Hey, can I say to all 3 of you, first of all, I appreciate you. Do you remember the days, and Alice, this was before your time, and BJ, this is probably before your time too, so I'll say it to Dan. Do you remember the days when we would be so excited for 300 or 400 votes on the daily poll question?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh, absolutely.
300 people voted.
Oh, yeah.
For times 10 now.
It's
Amazing.
unbelievable. And of course, the debate last Thursday night is a large reason just for the last few days. But it's been growing and growing and growing. And I just want to say we really appreciate those of you who vote each and every day on the poll question. I'm feeling added pressure because so many people tell me that every day they look forward to the poll question, that I need the gecko because I feel like I need some emotional support because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come up with tomorrow's, poll question. But let me tell you what's gone on in the last couple of days. Going into the debate last Thursday night, I think I said on air that the intended poll question would be, did the debate change anything? And I was fully prepared to answer no, because nothing else had changed the situation in the race. And I still need the dust to settle because I think that the 46%, remember, New York Times poll going into the debate was like 46-46. Do you think the 46% for Joe Biden really didn't appreciate that he had some issues with mental acuity? My view, as I've been saying, is they knew that. And it was baked into the numbers. And a large part of the 46%, they just cannot stand Donald Trump. So there might not be a big shift in the numbers. There might not be. I need more polls to come out because the data we're seeing so far is not enough for me to form a firm conclusion. So I did not go, given Biden's halting, frankly, sad performance last Thursday night. I did not go with the intended poll question of, did it change anything? Instead, last Friday, I asked, will Joe Biden be the Democratic nominee? And we're showing it now for the benefit of our YouTube viewers. 32,935 votes cast. The no votes were 52-44. The yes votes, can I just call it 52-48? 52-48, so a close margin, but a majority. And the other thing that I have to say, and I think our listeners, our viewers know this, there's not science in our polls. They're not scientific polls because we're not accounting for X percentage of people of color and Y percentage of fundamentalist Christians. And, we don't cover the demographics. We can't. But there are so many people voting these days that you can't just discount the result either. 52-48 on Friday, people said Biden will not be the Democratic nominee. Now comes Saturday and the CNN show. And Alice, do you know, did we set a record? I know we've hit 50,000 on a very few. Oh my God, I love Lester. I just love the image. You have to watch, PJ, you have to watch this. You can't just listen to this any longer, right? I mean, if people are listening on POTUS and not watching on YouTube, they're not getting the full package. Sorry, I got off my game. Alice, have we ever hit 55,000 as far as you know?
I believe so. I believe that our highest ever recorded was actually close to 100,000 because it was this very strange
that freak day.
We were not astroturfed. We were actually, I think the poll question just went viral overseas. Right. But we've hit, somewhere in the realm of 50,000, 55,000 before. I don't think we've ever had a day where it was just like, a regular amount of voters was like 60,000 or something.
Right.
I mean, 30 is definitely up there for us. And that would be pretty cool on a weekday. So people should make it happen today.
So you're right. In the aftermath of the 10/7 Hamas attack against Israel, there was a question that did go viral. We wondered if our results had been manipulated, and they hadn't. But you're absolutely right. There was that one sort of freakish day. I think this comes in at number 2. And here was the question. Should the Democratic nomination be determined by a contested convention? 55,020 voted. And the result, 70.22% said yes. 70%, and that's a largely CNN-driven audience because we've had this conversation before about how on a Saturday when you've got the CNN viewers, frankly, the poll results tend to skew more liberal or more progressive than they do Monday through Friday or on a Sunday. So that really spoke to me. And then yesterday, Sunday, I asked the question that I think is on everybody's mind. And on a Sunday, we had 32,814 votes cast. Can Kamala Harris defeat Donald Trump? Can Kamala Harris defeat Donald Trump? 69.76% of the audience said no, she cannot. So thank you for all of those results. We really appreciate the many, many of you who are voting each and every day at Smerconish.com. Let me get now to today's poll question at the website at Smerconish.com. Everyone is buzzing about, well, if Joe Biden were to decide that he's not going to run, then who could it be? I cribbed for today's poll question from Aaron Blake in the Washington Post. 10 options if Democrats actually try to replace Biden. I'm only giving you 9 choices. And I'm going to tell you right up front, I did not give you Michelle Obama because I just think it's preposterous, the idea. And Dan, you know, we get telephone calls from listeners and people say, well, Michelle Obama, right?
All the time. And it's just not happening. And you have consistently said no. So I can see why you're leaving her off the list.
Because if I did put her on the list, I think that it'd be a sucker's play and that she'd win. She'd win,
yes,
but then
on the poll, yes,
she'd win the poll question. But then I really wouldn't learn anything in terms of what does our audience, who does our audience think is the most viable of those who are on the list. So I give you in alphabetical order. I give you Andy Beshear, and some of you are saying Andy Beshear. Who's Andy Beshear? Andy Beshear is the Kentucky governor up for re-election in 2023 who won in a very red state. The fact that Andy Beshear has done so well in Kentucky as a Democrat is what causes people to take a look at Andy Beshear. Okay, then I give you Mayor, now Secretary Pete, as in Pete Buttigieg. Can Pete Buttigieg be the person? Is he the strongest replacement for Biden if it comes to that? I also keep on the list, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, I want to tell you, with the early results, because people are still voting and they're voting in big numbers, she's not the number 1 or the number 2 among those who are voting on this question at Smerconish.com in terms of who would be Biden's strongest replacement. Then Amy Klobuchar, who ran in the last cycle, I thought had a very good showing. I like Senator Klobuchar from the great state of Minnesota. Polarizing, but popular, Gavin Newsom. The California governor, Gavin Newsom. I mean, I think, and I know when I discuss this on air, I get California listeners, callers who say, oh, you don't know his record, huge budget deficit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The guy's good on his feet. And what a contrast I think it would be if it were Gavin Newsom, sort of a new generation of leadership against Donald Trump. And I said, until we figured out that Ron DeSantis's retail game was not so strong, and Mark Halpern did tell us that, I always thought that the battle of the ages and for the next generation of progressivism and conservatism would have been DeSantis and Newsom. Jared Polis is another of your possibilities. The Colorado governor, former congressman, the nation's first openly gay man to be elected governor. So Jared Polis gets a lot of praise from people who are familiar with his record. What does that mean relative to Secretary Buttigieg? Is there some competition there where the race isn't big enough for 2 men who want to break the glass ceiling of being the first gay president? I don't know. We can have that dialogue. Pennsylvanian from the Commonwealth, we give you Josh Shapiro. Shapiro's doing very well in our survey at Smerconish.com. A lot of people thinking that Josh Shapiro has what it takes and could be an effective replacement for Joe Biden. Much like Gavin Newsom, just sort of saying all the right things so far so as not to alienate the Biden White House, but doing enough media to let everybody know that they're interested. Raphael Warnock, the senator from the great state of Georgia, makes the cut as well. Has had to endure several elections despite the short time that he's been in the United States Senate, but also a very effective communicator who holds the mantle of the church where the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. once presided. And Michigan, I referenced Michigan earlier, Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer, swing state. swing state just like Josh Shapiro, swing state just like Raphael Warnock, I guess I should say, maybe Amy Klobuchar if Minnesota is in play. So those are the 9 that I am giving you. Go vote at Smerconish.com. Who among them is the strongest replacement for Joe Biden if it comes to that? I'm not asking you who it will be. I'm not asking you to be predictive. I'm saying who among that list of 9 is the strongest. The poll perhaps that matters most is not a Smerconish.com poll. It's this from CBS News and YouGov yesterday. Aleko, put that up and let people see. Does Joe Biden have the mental and cognitive health to serve as president? 72% say he doesn't. How do you get beyond that? 72% say, and that's of all registered voters. That's not just Republicans. 72%. And you're saying, well, wait a minute, Michael, how does that compare to Donald Trump? Okay, here's the next slide, a comparison, Biden versus Trump. And you can look at it if you're watching on YouTube. 72% say Joe Biden doesn't have the requisite mental and cognitive health to serve as president, as compared to 49% who say the same thing about Donald Trump. So there it is in a nutshell. One non-political, non-debate, non-Biden headline, if I may, from the newsletter. Alice, the last couple of days, like 10 or 12 of every day's links have been about the debate and the aftermath of the debate. I think it had to be that way, right? I mean, it's like one of those stories. We got to cover it in such detail.
Of course. I mean, it's breaking news. Of course, it's going to dominate the newsletter.
Are we able to zoom in on
Lester?
He's shy. Leave him alone. He didn't know he was going to be on the stream today either.
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't have time like me to go put on makeup in 30 seconds, Michael.
Okay, so speaking of shy and alone, thank you for that segue. Unintended, but perfect. There's one story, it's a Mingle-related story that is in today's newsletter. It's from the BBC that you got to read. And let me see if I can say the word. Hikikomori. Hikikomori. Has anybody ever heard of any of you, PJ, have you ever heard of the word hikikomori? Seriously?
No.
You've not. Dan, hikikomori?
No.
Alice?
I think you can just say Happiness Factory.
Okay, the story is titled Happiness Factory. It's a story from Korea. Always interesting to me whether they say Korean or South Korean. It's South Korea. Listen to this. No phones or laptops are allowed inside these cells, which are no bigger than a store cupboard, and their inhabitants have only bare walls for company. Residents may wear blue prison uniforms, but they are not inmates. They have come to the center in South Korea for a confinement experience. Most people here have a child who has fully withdrawn from society and have come to learn for themselves how it feels to be cut off from the world. Reclusive young people like these residents' children are referred to as hikikomori, a term coined in Japan in the 90s to describe severe social withdrawal among adolescents and young adults. Ready for this data point? The South Korean Ministry of Health and Welfare survey of 19 to 34-year-olds found more than 5% of respondents were so isolating themselves. If this is representative of the wider population of South Korea, it would mean about 540,000 people are in the same situation. So this is a story from the BBC about a problem of isolation among Korean youth. Point being, it's not just our youth who are suffering in this mental health crisis, it's youth around the globe. But so pronounced is the problem that in Korea, parents are enrolling in a 13-week program, which includes them spending 3 days in a confinement cell. Why are they doing it? Because they're trying to understand the issues affecting their children, come to terms with it, and better be able to interact with their kids. I thought South Korea has some of the highest suicide rates in the world. The government has just unveiled a 5-year plan announcing it. According to the ministry's survey, their 19 to 34-year-olds are suffering with difficulties in finding a job, family problems, interpersonal relationships, health issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a quote in here from a mom who said that she just couldn't understand and take the self-isolation of her child and therefore enrolled in this program to come to terms with it. Your thoughts on that, Dan, Alice, and PJ? Why parents are locking themselves in cells at a Korean happiness factory contained in today's newsletter. Alice, what thoughts might you have?
I think it's very interesting perspective. Sorry if you can hear the helicopter outside, but it almost reminds me of sensory deprivation in a way, and just kind of resetting your perspective.
Mom says seeing her son locked in a room, neglecting personal hygiene and meals just broke her heart. Although anxiety, difficulties in relationships with family and friends, and disappointment at not having been accepted into a top university may have affected her son, he is reluctant to talk to her about what is truly wrong. So she enrolled Dan herself in this program. Your thought?
This sounds like a new or different version, at least that I have not heard of therapy. And I think it is so important for everyone to get therapy. And you can't take care of others if you first do not take care of yourself. And I'm not a parent, but I know that being a parent, because I've heard and I've seen, is one of the most difficult things you can do. And you need to take care of yourself first before you can take care of your kids.
Well, and Dan, I have to believe in your capacity as an EMT. You've seen some difficult situations. I'm not asking to breach any privacy, but
no, 100%. And and I fully admit I have a therapist who is actually provided by my fire department, by the Montgomery County Fire Department, where I'm a part of, and he's awesome. And it's we meet once a week, and it's great. And it's like I highly recommend it for everyone. So this is what these women are doing, and this then helps them become better parents. Awesome. Good for them. PJ,
Korean Happiness Factory.
What was the time frame that they're in there for? Is it a specific
3 days? It's a 13-week program, but for 3 days you are in isolation intended to mirror what your kids are going through.
Interesting. I'm not exactly sure how to react, but I mean, my own personal social experiment with this was not having a phone for a year. That felt pretty isolating.
When did you do that?
2017.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So fairly recent.
Yeah. It's on your website.
Oh, that's right.
Smerconish. I wrote a whole blog post the first time I published information about it.
I totally forgot.
But yeah, digital isolation. I mean, being physically isolated for 3 days. I mean, it's like a weekend. I feel like I might want to try
3
that.
days is how long it takes for, someone to go crazy scientifically. I have to cite that somewhere, but I saw this documentary where it's just like it only takes 3 days for you to really set in terms of isolation for things to get kind of wild.
I heard none of what she said because I was focused on the gecko. Gang, I appreciate you. Hey, Aleko, thank you. This looked good too, right, PJ?
Pretty solid.
Yeah, a little shout out to Aleko. This is fun.
Aleko, we want you on camera too. We have to get the whole team.
Exactly. You know what it is? Can I just say this, and we got to shut down? The experience of the pre-debate call where I get to see 1,000 listeners at once on flashing screens. I love seeing everybody. Dan, thank you. Alice, thank you. PJ, thank you. Aleko, thank you. See everybody.